I'll feed anybody, but I'm not for everybody. My name is Chef Derrick Green, and I find people that have turned their life's experiences into ingredients they use to feed others. We're redefining soul food. These people have turned their adversities into their advantages. This is the Sauce of Life show, and let's go. Michael Sonbert, welcome to the Sauce of Life, brother.
Thanks for having me, man. This is awesome.
Absolutely. Hey, the Sauce of Life is about people that have taken their life's experiences and turned those into ingredients that they now use to feed others. It's truly a redefining of soul food. And with that being said, Mike, please introduce yourself to the world.
Well, thanks so much, Derrick. I just got to say, man, I love the whole vibe of this show. I'm so psyched to be on it. So thanks for having me, man. I'd probably start by saying that I'm an autism dad and that there's nothing really that's more important than that. I have 3 kids, an 11-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 7-year-old. My 9-year-old has autism, profound autism as it's defined. So not a lot of language, a lot of tantrums, and a lot of, really erratic behaviors. But, it's interesting, man. I'm a former teacher. And when I was teaching back then and in the city I was in, which was Philadelphia, they wanted me to get a master's degree, or rather you have to get a master's degree to teach, to be certified. And so I had a choice between a degree in science or a degree in special education. I was working with kids with special needs back then, so I got a degree in special education. And then they immediately moved me into the gen ed world, and I was no longer working with kids with special needs. And I thought to myself, man, like that's a little bit like, it's kind of a waste, right? But you know how things play out. You know how the universe works. You know that God's a million steps ahead. So it's really it's cool that our little man came along and I was ready for it. So which doesn't mean it wasn't really hard at points, but it's so I'd say, look, I'm an autism dad. I own a couple companies. We work with school leaders in K-12 urban school districts. We like to say we level the playing field for kids for whom the playing field's not level. We go to the zip codes that most people go out of their way to avoid but hear about on the news. Cities like Baltimore, Detroit, Milwaukee, Chicago, Philly, New York, LA, just Dallas, you find a city where things are tough for adults and for kids, and we're usually there. And then I have another company where it's almost entirely corporate facing. It's all about corporate culture. I just think it's a ripoff, man, that there are so many millions of people who are spending 33% of their adult lives unhappy, unfulfilled. You go to a family party, ask the average person about their job. They will tell you they hate it. Their bosses are this, and I've seen in my work with, tons of schools and at this point, a bunch of Fortune 500 companies as well. Like these things are fixable and it's up to the leaders to fix it. So I do that in my spare time and also like to run marathons and jump in. I live in New York and jump in the Atlantic Ocean in the winter. We're big cold plungers and, you find something crazy and something that most people don't want to do. And I'm usually signed up for it.
Man, where to start with all of that? First, I just have to say this before I forget. I did my first cold plunge a couple of days ago.
Right on.
The rapper Billy the Kid, I belong to one of his real estate groups, and they did a 72-hour fast with me because I'm on a fasting schedule this year. I'm going to literally fast for the entire year.
Nice.
And a regimented eating pattern. Yeah. And kind of like in return, they had me do a cold plunge. And here at this Airbnb, there's no tub. So I literally found myself in this little pond on the side of the road.
Yep. Yeah.
And I did it, man. I hated every second of it, but I did it.
Yeah.
This is about you.
Well, I will say that. So it's funny, man. We go up to like northern Pennsylvania a lot, And I'm probably the only person who, as we're driving past like a half frozen pond or lake, that's like, I want to jump in that thing right now. But I will say that for you, there's something about folks who cold plunge. I think we have a surprise guest. Oh, I don't know. Folks who cold plunge, there's two ways to think about it. There's the like, I hate every second of it, which is fine for somebody who's newer to it. And I need to endure this thing. And then there's the mindset that sounds like, I just need to succumb to this. I can't fight this. It's cold. I know it's cold. And so I've found that I do much better when I am in that mindset versus the first one.
2025 for me is about coming into alignment with that second mindset instead of the first one. It's this thing about being uncomfortable and gaining control over the mind, realizing that I'm not going to die from being in this cold water. Many people do cold. And one of my mentors years ago told me Myron Golden was the one who recommended me, like, man, you need to do cold plunges. And I was just like, Myron, spent 21 years in the military and I've never even taken a cold shower. I'm not right. But after doing it, I've done it a couple times now, and I realized that it's a mental thing, man. And
it's a mental thing.
The body is saying no, the mind is saying no, but who's in control? And it's just this. Yeah. What is it for you? What about it for you?
For me, look, the science is still out on the actual health benefits, though. Like the early science says that this is like the best way to burn fat. And, if you just think about it from without even getting into all the details of the science, it makes sense that we're getting your body out of a static state and forcing it to work really hard to like regulate your temperature when you get, first of all, to endure or to actually succumb to the cold. And then to, I tell people all the time, don't just hop right in a hot shower afterward. Like let your body do the work of warming you back up. I mean, if you think about a lot of people in 2025, and this is no judgment, please know that, but a lot of folks, they go from their warm houses to their warm cars to their warm offices. I walk a lot. I love being out in the cold, and I see like exhaust coming out of the back of all these different cars in my neighborhood. And I know that person's in their warm house waiting for that thing to get up to 78 degrees. They're going to race there. And so for me, it's like, I love the idea of doing the thing that other people aren't going to do, and starting my day with that and saying like, on the days that I plunge before, 6 a.m., I've already done something today that is harder than what most people are going to do this entire week and maybe longer. And so for me, and it's not a competition, but I like the idea of doing things that I know that most folks won't do. And it fills me with confidence. It fills me with this sense of like, that business meeting didn't go great. It's okay. Because I was in 34-degree water this morning for 3 minutes, and I can handle most things that are going to come up.
Beautiful, man. I would disagree with you as far as the competition part of it. I think it is a competition, but I do believe it's a competition between the you of yesterday and the man that you desire to be today. And that's what I
that's fair.
As when it comes to fasting, or when it comes to exercise, or when it comes to the cold plunges, or just doing the things that you've said you're going to do and committing to it.
That's right.
So,
Derrick, a few years ago, I have a buddy who does the cold like me. And on August 31st, I called him up and I said, hey man, I am going to take a cold shower every single day from now through New Year's Eve, 5-minute minimum, no hot. It's never going hot. Cold shower every single day between now and New Year's Eve. The next time I'm going to feel warm water on my body is going to be whatever year it was, 2023. I go, and by the way, I'm going to take a shower every day because like there are times like on a Saturday when I'll just lay around in my PJs, hanging with the kids when I don't shower. I said every single day I'm doing a shower, an ice cold shower. I go, you're just about crazy enough to do this with me. Are you interested? He says, count me in. And every single day I did it except for one. I ran the Philadelphia Marathon and it was 25 degrees out with 40-mile-an-hour sustained winds. And it took me 5.5 hours, and it was my first marathon, and I couldn't get an Uber, so I had to walk back to where I live in New York. We have an apartment in Philly, and so I had to walk back to the apartment, and I was shaking and shivering after a 5.5 hour run. The last thing you want to do is walk another 2 miles, but I did that. And I got back and I said, I can't do a cold shower. I have to go hot. I still regret it to this day. I regret it to this day that I didn't go cold that one day. And to your point, like I said I would do it and I didn't do it. And I'm not okay with that even a few years later.
It's amazing how that happens, man. But the things that you hold on to, and I get it. Because with a driven mindset, you essentially gave up on yourself that one time. And there's always that question of what happened with it? Where would I be now? Confidence-wise, what would I be?
Right.
There's so many things that we can talk about, brother, but I want to go back because you introduced yourself first as an autism dad.
Yeah.
And with me, the times that I've gone into the schools and worked with the special ed kids, I go in and I cook waffles with them.
Yeah.
And it opened me up, Michael, because I got to see that to this day, there's not a kid that doesn't have a gift. There's not a kid that I've ever met on the spectrum that doesn't have some gift somewhere. So 2 things. First, what is your son's name? And then what is his gift?
So his name is Teddy. He's Theodore. We call him Teddy for short. And so Teddy became Teddy Bear. So if, amongst friends and family, you'll hear a lot of people just call him Bear, which I love the nickname. And he's strong as a bear. He's only 9, but he's as strong as a bear and could sometimes be as aggressive as a bear. And so it's a perfect nickname. It's a great question, man. It's one of those things where I had to. This was during the pandemic when I was home every day with him and with the whole family, but I saw his behaviors more present than I'd seen them before. And I'm not proud to admit this, but I was at a moment of like, I don't know if I could be this kid's dad. Like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And, I'm somebody, I move fast. I like progress. I don't want to say something 3 times, so say it once and let's get it done. I write books. I used to write novels. Now I write nonfiction. Like if I want to start a company, I start it. It does, knock on wood, it does well. And the idea of having somebody in my life who so unpredictable, no kind of rhyme or reason. He used to love this song. Now he's punching himself in the head because that song is on. He's trying to express himself, but he can't. I'm trying to be compassionate about that, because can you imagine not being able to talk and what that level of frustration is like? And so my wife just had, the people often say that things are life-changing, and in my opinion, rarely are they, right? You say, you got to eat at this restaurant, man, it's life-changing. Like, no, it didn't change your life. It was delicious, but it didn't change your life. But my wife said, you can grieve for people who are still here. You can grieve for the person who you hoped he would be. And while, our belief in him is still sky high, and we say all the time that we were going to support him to living the absolute best life that he could possibly live, it was this transformative moment that was like, wow, Yeah. So for other families, going to the local pizza place is not something they have to think twice about. But for us, it's nearly impossible because he won't go in. Or if we get him to the table, he starts, pulling the plates off the table, or then he starts screaming and banging himself in the head. And I love to travel, but how do you travel? Like, people are like, can't you just do a short flight? Like, how would I even get him to sit at the gate? Right. Like, and all these, like, like, and what, and heaven forbid he has a tantrum on the flight. I mean, it's so extreme. It's so serious that they would turn the plane around. They wouldn't understand that. No, this is just our dude. So, for me, the gift that he's given me is slow down, patience, acceptance of things not being how I want them to be. I had a very fixed mindset. It's supposed to be like this. It's supposed to be like that. And I got to tell you, man, when he snuggles and when I'm putting him to bed and he's, just snuggled in against me, and I tell him every single time, I'm so proud to be your dad, which is not something I always felt. It's changed me fundamentally as a human being.
Man, the level of vulnerability. I believe when people go back and listen to this, they'll hear your voice change when you start talking about Teddy,
Yeah.
and the level of vulnerability that you go into right there. You just said a whole bunch of things that sparked thoughts within me. Like, I could remember being on the plane and hearing kids yelling and screaming, and I have these Bose extra quiet comfort headphones.
Yeah.
But I can remember having thoughts of, can't you quiet the kid down? And
Right. Right.
it crossed my mind, I guess, to think, Michael, that you or your wife is back there struggling
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
normalize Low Man, to normalize Teddy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that you guys may be at your wits' end as well.
Yeah.
I appreciate that you're sharing right now that you feel like you haven't always been that supportive dad that you've wanted to be.
Yeah.
What does that, man, what does that feel like for you? I mean, having been educated in special ed, were you prepared for this? Do you feel like you were prepared for this?
No, man. I say that the kids I taught, they had special needs, but they were, well equipped enough to be in a general ed setting, even if they were in a pull-out special education class. These are kids who were verbal. These are kids who could follow directions, who could sit in a seat for 45 minutes or an hour. These are kids who could, use the bathroom on their own or feed, use utensils and things like that. I was not prepared for a child who can't as of now can't do those things. And so that was a major culture shock for me to say, hey, like, I'm pretty well prepared in this field. And he's taken all that and flipped it sideways. And to be honest, man, it's been when we first got the diagnosis, we don't know each other that long, man. But guys like us, we're problem solvers. We don't wallow in it. We don't, when the bad news comes in, if it comes in, we say, all right, got it. Here's what I'm going to do about this. And that was my mindset. We got his diagnosis. He was 2.5. Probably 2 hours of like, holy cow. How are we going to do this? And then it was like, what's the plan? Let's get this. And everybody in our lives said, hey, everybody had a story. Everybody has an autism story at this point. Hey, my nephew, same exact behaviors as Teddy when he was 2.5. He's 6. He talks. He's at school. Or my nephew, or my cousin, same as Teddy. Now he's in college, and he lives on his own, and all these things. And so, and everybody had a story, man. 12 stories, 24 stories, and they were all victories. There were no stories that said like, hey, like, yeah, my brother, and he's like still in a diaper and he's like 14. Nobody's told us stories like that. And so, you know, being a problem solver as I am, it was, you know, it was a frustration that I couldn't outsmart this thing. I couldn't outwill it. I couldn't outwork it. These are all things that I want to do and I'm used to doing. Like I'll do. I said, you know, if I had to climb Mount Everest in a t-shirt and shorts, I would do it for this. But this thing, you know, I met my match in a lot of ways, and so I had to get super humble. You know, pivot some of my expectations, not lowering the bar for him as a person, but understanding that like, hey, like sometimes I'm just going to take my other two kids to a dinner, because it's really hard for him to do that. And, you know, when things get hard for him, they get less enjoyable for everybody in the immediate vicinity. Think about you on that plane right there. So like, just changing some of those expectations, while still showing him, you know, all the love that I have for him. And so just to get back to that thing, we say, well, what can we do? You know, we're doing everything we can for our little dude, but like, who can we be for other people out there? And can we be, you know, a light in the darkness for some of the folks out there who are struggling with this very same thing? And so, I don't recommend that people do this because this could go really poorly. But for Christmas one year, I filed all the paperwork and basically gave my wife an envelope. She's like, you know, as her gift. And she's like, "What's this?" I'm like, you're the CEO of an autism nonprofit." And she was like, "What?" Because she'd been like talking about this for a while, but you know, my wife's she's brilliant and she's a visionary. She's much less likely to like do all the kind of like the nitty gritty stuff to make something like that happen. So I was like, "Hey, you're the CEO. Like, let's do this. What do you got?" And so I'm on the board, and you know, she's raised at this point thousands and thousands of dollars for autism programs. She goes to schools and speaks to kids. Kids in the gen ed classes, kids without disabilities, about their, you know, autistic peers. You know, her belief, and I agree with it, is like, if we can get to kids at a young enough age and normalize, and I don't want to act as if Teddy's the same as those kids, because he does need different supports, but you know, the same way we see with his cousins, who, when he starts to scream, even if he's excited, he screams a lot. When he's excited, he flaps his arms. He, you know, it's called stimming for folks who don't know. He spins constantly. Like he's like one of those Olympic figure skaters who's just like spinning, because he loves the movement. And sometimes we're around kids who don't know him, and they'll say, like, what's wrong with him? And like, not just my two other kids, but like their cousins or our close friends, you know, like, "Hey, that's Teddy. He has autism. He doesn't, you know, that's how he is. That's how he shows that he's excited." And you see the other kids, even if they were judgmental at first, go from a place of like not understanding and being like, that's different and weird, to like, oh, because little kids are like, oh, got it. Like they're so their brains are developing, and they're so just like, you know, green and starry eyed. And I mean that in a good way. And so like, you know, for people our ages, like that stuff's harder, but for little kids, like, oh, got it. Cool. Now I know about autism. And so my wife is speaking to classrooms of kids all across the country, and, you know, educating them about kids like Teddy. Her vision is that, you know, she can be a small part in creating a world where, you know, when he's 25 and doing whatever he's doing at that time, which I hope is something that he really enjoys, which I think it will be, that, you know, whatever behaviors are present, that all the people around him will be like, yeah, that's just Teddy. It's just the way he is. Totally fine. Nothing wrong with it.
You know what, man? Again, I mean, there's so much wisdom that just falls out of you as you're talking. And I'm listening to you, and it's like the things that you're saying don't just apply to kids on the spectrum or parents of
Yeah.
autistic kids. They apply to any parent. If you have developed this level of patience to deal with his outbursts, his screams, outburst has a negative connotation. It's who he is, and it's not like he can.
But you can call it an outburst. It's totally fine because it is that at lots of times.
But I'm sitting here and I'm challenging myself internally as a man, saying, what's my level of patience? How can I get frustrated at this, or this that my child has done, my son has done?
Yeah.
When you're putting up or dealing with these different things, and then what I'm hearing is that you're challenged as a man. All of these successes that you've shown in life with building your business and the way that you've structured yourself and have brought these things into your life. Now Teddy challenges all of that because you want to fix. I'm a fixer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It drives my wife crazy because she says something. By the time she's done talking, I've already solved the problem in my head.
The answer. Yeah.
Yeah. But this isn't, like you said, this isn't something that you can just solve, and you can keep pouring love into him and love into him and love into him. And I like the fact that you pointed out that, hey, everybody doesn't have to paint a rosy picture. Although that's a natural human tendency to paint that picture. I can hear maybe a sense of frustration, and you're like, not everything is meant to come out nice and rosy. So I appreciate you, brother, for sharing your truths.
I appreciate you for having me, man, for listening, and that means a lot.
Let me ask you though, you've mentioned that you go into environments where other people don't want to go.
Yeah.
And I'm so curious if you've ever made the connection between that and what's happening with Teddy, where you're willing to be very uncomfortable in situations where other people have to live a normal existence.
Yeah. I've been doing that work since long before Teddy was even a thought in our heads. It really stems from, I spent a lot of years define myself as a taker. Wasn't necessarily the person you'd want to hang around with. Lots of drug use, lots of women, whatever kind of made me feel good, even if it made others feel bad. I never physically harmed anybody, or I didn't steal from people, but I was a taker. Used to take pride in like breaking women's hearts. I used to think that was like a fun game. I was so I hated myself to like to just a really, really deep degree. I thought that living past 30 was, I say that like, at some point living past the age of 30 went from appalling to appealing. And I had to figure out how to navigate that. But I grew up, I was a rock and roller man, sang in bands, and all the excesses that come with that. Even though we never got famous or made it big, but we partied like we were famous and mega big. And so for me, an opportunity to do something that is not about me, even though I'm now, the CEO of the company, but, this is always, all of our messaging, all of my messaging is about, our partners and the families at those schools and the students who we're lucky enough to serve, and the promises that those school leaders and those teachers have made to those kids and families, and how can we help them keep those promises. And so, a lot of people get into what I do, maybe not a lot, but there's this like term for what I do, which is a negative term where people will say, like, particularly white educators, that you're some kind of white savior, and this idea that I'm going to go into black communities and I'm going to save kids and save families. And there are certainly people I've come across who've like had that mindset. I'm here to save the day and do things the way I say. For me, I say when I'm asked that, like, the kids saved me. I fell backwards into education. I blew out a disc in my neck in my late 20s doing construction jobs. I was a blue collar dude. I went to school. I had 9 college credits when I was 29 years old. This is a good message for your audience, right? Like 29 years old, 9 college credits, went back to school, got a degree, fell back, found an opportunity. And I'm a New York guy, but it was in Philadelphia where I have a lot of family, and got down there not having any idea what I was walking into, and wound up finding just the most amazing young people, and people who just inspired the heck out of me, and families who care about their kids every bit as much as the families who I grew up around, and who are looking for something maybe a little bit different and maybe a little bit better than what they'd previously experienced. And so, at this point, my commitment to those communities and commitment to people who haven't been given a fair shake, regardless of race, regardless of ethnicity. I mean, most of our schools are in neighborhoods that serve Black and brown kids, but regardless, like wherever it is, if there's a place where adults can do better for kids, I feel compelled to be there.
Bro, I just want to share something with you. I grew up in a place called Fort Pierce, Florida.
Yeah, I know Fort Pierce.
All right. So when I was there was a lot of gang violence. There was a lot of just horrible things. And there's these adverse childhood experiences, which you probably also are familiar with.
Yeah.
I went through nearly all of the adverse childhood experiences, including the ones on the extended scale, except for 2, and multiples. And I just want to share, as I'm listening to you talk, I imagine that some of the hearts of the people that changed my worldview when I was a kid, some of these white saviors. And I know there are people that have the savior complex.
Yeah.
Where they come in and it's just like, I'm here. I'm the next reincarnation of Jesus.
Yeah.
But then
be happy that I'm here type thing. Yeah.
There's other people that just realize that every single one of these kids has a chance if somebody will just look at them as if they have a chance.
Yeah.
Maybe that kid doesn't even know that they can escape this place that they are, that there is a different world. Yeah. And I just want to share with you that something as simple as when I was a kid, they were building a park. They invited a lot of us knuckleheads, us at-risk youth, to come out and help build a park in the absolute gangbang territory. And my job, this guy, this white guy just gave me the job of putting soap on screws. So all I had to do was to take the screw and scrape it against a bar of soap and keep handing it to the other guys who were screwing in the wooden frame. And even to this day, bro, I go back to Fort Pierce, Florida, and that park still stands. They've added to it, and I'm proud to have been involved in that. So the thing that you're doing, I just want to give you flowers now, though I wasn't privy to your guidance, but the things that you're doing now to impact the lives of those young kids, you don't know how you'll have an impact. I don't know if that guy is still alive or he even knows the impact that he had on me just from putting soap on screws. So just wanted to say that to you.
Well, I appreciate that, man. And I appreciate you sharing some of your story. It's good. It's good for people to know that, anything's possible. That everybody is looking for some guidance. Even the students who tell me they hated my guts and wanted me to leave them the bleep alone. They need guidance. I need guidance. You need guidance, and I appreciate you sharing your story, man. I appreciate the kind words.
Yeah. Something that I learned growing up, man, was that a lot of people like me at that age just didn't want to be seen.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. It's like once I was made aware that I was living in poverty, then I didn't want to be reminded of that. And sometimes when people come in with that savior mentality, it's kind of like holding up a mirror.
Yeah.
And it caused me to look and say, I know that my aunt is a prostitute and a crackhead.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know that my mom is an abusive alcoholic. And I know that my dad is in prison.
Yeah.
And I know that my school sucks and we have some of the lowest test scores in the state. And that I literally graduated, Michael, with a 1.6 GPA, bro. I'm smarter than that.
Right.
But I didn't apply myself. And so oftentimes when people came in, like what you're talking about, it was like holding up a mirror. And many people, even as adults, don't want to look in the mirror. And this is a part of what makes this interview so special for me, is because it sounds like you're a man who's learned to stand in that uncomfortable mirror sometimes and analyze.
Yeah, I call it transformational discomfort. That's and it's the antidote to intolerable comfort. And if I think about myself, all those years, all those drugs, all those just days that bled into months, that bled into years of the exact same thing. I hated it, but there was a comfort in knowing that every day was going to be the same. There was a comfort in knowing that, I was going to, wake up and, feel horrible and then have to struggle through the next day. It sounds crazy, but if you think about people, maybe even your own experiences at some point, dating people who aren't good for us, but we keep doing it and like break up with one person and then like the next person, and for me is like the next woman's exactly the same. Like, and by the way, I'm not taking, I have a huge responsibility in that conversation as well. That like intolerable comfort. I hate this, but at least I know what it is. And there's comfort in that versus that transformational discomfort where it's like, I am out of that comfort zone. I don't know what's going to happen. But change is happening. And I don't know if that it's going to all be good, but change is happening. And I try and live in that place as much as I can.
Brother, I'm so curious about your childhood. Where did all of this originate? I'll just leave that question there. Where did Michael Sonbert originate?
Yeah, man, it's kind of funny. I grew up in a middle-class town on the South Shore of Long Island. A family that is kind of, there was love. We, didn't have everything, but we had quite a bit. And it's weird because I was talking to somebody about this the other day. I mean, the amount of people from my hometown who I just know personally who've died from drug overdoses or suicide. I mean, it's just, I don't know what happened in that town. I'm going to be honest with you, man. I don't know what it was because we weren't wealthy enough to be like bored in that way, right? I mean, my dad was a mechanic. My mom was a school teacher. My friends' dads were mailmen and electricians. And, there were people who had more money than that. But not really who I hung around with. And so, for me, everything that comes back to a few things. One is my mom was sick for a lot of my childhood. She had cancer when my sister and I were in our teens. It went away, but like it often does, came back, and so a lot of my life was just kind of coping with her illness and her eventual death. And then my relationship with my dad, and he is it wasn't necessarily big on the physical violence, though that stuff would happen at times, but just relentlessly critical. I think if you tell someone they're a piece of crap enough, they're gonna believe it. And so, really no kind of positive attention, no teaching, no, I think about my own kids, and I'll take my oldest under my wing, and I'll say, hey man, I want to talk to you about that interaction. Or the other day I'd made a mistake, and I said to him, hey man, I'm so sorry about that, thanks for correcting me, and I'm not looking for awards or medals for that stuff, but I didn't get any of that stuff. And so got out into the world and was just looking for validation. And got when I was drinking and on drugs, I felt like Superman, and I got tons of validation from women, and so I just kept going with it. And they had their own demons that they were working through. I know that, but for me, it was like, all right, like I didn't get this at home, and when I think about home, it's just that there's sickness there and there's negativity. And I should mention too that, my dad was, they were spending money that they didn't have. And so the bank took our house. I'd look at, there were days when I'd look outside and there were tire tracks on our front lawn because the bank came and took the car. I remember, kind of running out of the house, scratching my initials on the inside of my closet because the bank had taken the house. And so, there were things that I was running from, felt like the whole family was kind of running from. And then, just the, getting to a certain age and having no familial support. My mom couldn't, I'm sure most of your listeners can't relate to this, and this is a good thing, but, when your mom weighs, 80 pounds, and, she's in the last few months of her life, and I'm, trying to find some fat in her thigh to give her morphine because it's the only thing that is, keeping her out of agonizing pain. And, I hear her fall and she's in the bathroom, and I'm now, the cancer was all in her GI tract. And so they'd installed a tube in her stomach so that any of slight amount of food that she could get down, which was next to nothing, she would, put her tube over the sink and turn the knob. And then that would kind of like drain into the sink because she couldn't, the cancer was so present in her intestines and colon and stuff that, now she's on the floor of the bathroom. I'm looking at my mom, half naked. I'm cleaning up the bile. I'm sorry if this is too graphic for your audience, but
for 6 years, and go for it.
Yeah. Well, appreciate that. For me, it was like I just need to escape from this place, and that's kind of my story, man.
I appreciate you sharing all of that, man, that vulnerableness. And bro, this show is about your life. It's not about how I feel. It's not about how the audience feels. There's a message that's inside of you because the man that you've become now and the lives that you impact now, this show is truly about understanding how you were shaped into who you are now. And so I just want you to know that as we continue this conversation, don't be afraid to share details. If the audience can't listen to it, they can change the channel.
Well, I appreciate that, man. That's not you probably wouldn't get that coaching from an agent or a publicist, but I appreciate the real you, and I appreciate you telling me that. And if you're right, if folks want to change the channel, they're welcome to, right?
I stand on stage, bro, and I introduce myself as Chef Derrick Green, and I let people know I'm willing to feed anybody, but I'm not for everybody.
Yeah.
And it's just that listening to the pain in your voice and listening to my brain was automatically counting aces in my head. Things like the physical abuse that was sometimes there, the neglect that was sometimes there, emotional neglect, the witnessing the sickness and the death of a family member, the loss of a family member. Those are there. That's a part of how you were shaped into the man that you became now. And you know what? There's for people that are too sensitive to hear that, it just means that they probably had a more cushy life than you and I had, or people like you.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, because I try and keep this between 45 minutes and an hour, but man, you have so much that we can talk about. I'm definitely going to have to have you back as a guest, but what I'm curious of is would you change any of it?
Yeah, it's a great question, man. I've never been happier in my entire life than I am right now in this space and time. I've had moments where I've said, "Oh, I wish I'd hit that milestone at 30 instead of 40, or I wish I'd done this at 22 instead of 32." And so I think I could look at kind of micro instances like that, and say that I wish that thing or this thing was different. But if you kind of believe in that butterfly effect model, which I do, I don't meet my now wife. I don't have these. I might have 3 kids, but they might not be these 3 kids, right? And so, the only thing that I would change, Derrick, is if I could snap my fingers and Teddy wouldn't struggle the way he struggles. I see him in more perceived agony. I know it's not actual physical pain, but I see him in more perceived agony in a week than most people with kids who are not disabled or who don't have disabilities see their kids in the 18 years before they head off to school or move out or whatever it is. I mean, he operates like he has a broken femur, 10 times a week. Wow. If I could snap my fingers and he wouldn't have to suffer like that, I would do that in a second, but not for me. And there was a time when it was for me a lot. I can't deal with this. I didn't sign up for this. That's not the case at all anymore. And that's the only thing that I would change, because I'm not at this place in time right now. If anything's different, and I'm certainly not talking to you on this call, if anything's different.
Man, I always question, brother. I appreciate your answer. I appreciate your response and the authenticity. Like I've said, I always question whether or not, first of all, we never know God's plan, right, regardless of beliefs. Like, you never know what the universe has in store for you. And there's nothing that says that you weren't supposed to witness all of those things, because one day you're going to write a sentence in a book that changes the life of some kid in Uganda who then becomes the next whomever, right? The next Elon Musk, who has Asperger's or whatever. You know what I mean? I question things like that. And then I realized that for me, I asked myself this as a kid. I remember asking myself this question: what if my entire life was to have an impact? You mentioned the butterfly effect. What if my entire existence was to have this one impact on this one person that I never know the impact that I've had on this person, right? But they changed the world. Right. And when I get to where I'm going, wherever that is, that's what's shown to me.
Yeah. That's cool.
You chose to do this thing. And that doesn't apply to everybody, but just a different perspective. Brother, I have 2 questions. Even though I feel like we for a whole another hour, I have 2 questions left for you, so that respect your time. The first question is, where can people contact you?
Sure. Yeah. LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. Michael Sonbert, Sonbert. Less active on Instagram, but you can certainly reach out to me there. I'd say probably the best place is go to my website, rebelculture.com, or you can email me at michael@rebelculture.com. For me, the coolest thing is when folks reach out and they just want to chat or they're interested in something I said. So, email works great.
I have no doubt you're going to touch lives, brother. One of my mastermind groups, as a part of my mastermind, they get access to these interviews before they're released to the public and before they're edited. And every time I upload one of these things, they're just like, dude, oh my God, this person. So I already know some of the lives that you're going to touch. Second question is, if this were the last time that you and I spoke, or the only time that someone from my audience got a chance to hear you speak, what would you want us to walk away with?
Yeah, it's a great question, man. Just do for other people. If you do enough for other people and you make a difference for other people and you add value to their lives, it doesn't take away anything from you. In fact, interestingly, it actually adds way more to your cup. I was a person who for a long time was focused on one person and one person only, the dude in the mirror. Now that guy comes last always. And I would coach anybody who's willing to hear it to operate the same way.
Brother, Michael Sonbert, I appreciate your time. Thank you for being on The Sauce of Life, and thank you for sharing some of those ingredients, man. I appreciate you, bro. You fed me today.
I appreciate you too, man. Well, I appreciate you having me on. This is a great interview, man. I'm really, really thankful.